Hi, I'm giving an overview here of a Quattro LNB that's available on tvtrade.ie. Okay, it's made by Smart Electronics, who make virtually all the LNBs that we sell and also all the multi-switches that we stock on our website. Right now, Quattro's LNBs are always used in conjunction with something like this, which is a multi-switch. And to give the logic of when and where we'd use it, we want to have a situation where we want to put a single satellite dish and feed it to a number of different satellite receivers, and maybe feed a terrestrial signal in with it as well. Now, the limitations of, we'll say, dishes that you can buy is that you'd be in a situation, say, where you could put out a Sky satellite dish with an Octo LNB with 8 cables running in, and then run it to 8 separate televisions. Okay, but the limits, a few restrictions on that is that you need to run the 8 cables from the satellite dish outside, and also then at a later point, if you decided to upgrade it to, we'll say, 12, 14, 16 televisions, you'd need to put up a second satellite dish and run in another pile of cables. Okay, now a neater and technically a better solution to it is to use something like an 80 centimeter satellite dish and also a Quattro LNB such as this. Okay, so if we come along anyway, it approaches the problem differently. It doesn't try to run a feed for each and every single satellite dish directly to the box. What it tries to do is it comes along and it wants to break up the satellite signal into vertical and horizontal, high and low. So hence we have 4 different feeds here. If we actually come along and we look at the bottom of the thing here now, it might be quite hard to read this, but hopefully you can see it. I'm just going to grab this pen for a second. We can see high H, so high horizontal, low horizontal, high vertical, low vertical. Okay, so what we would do is we'd normally color code 4 cables, run them in, and on the far end of the cable here we'd have something like this multi-switch here. So with this multi-switch, what would happen is, if we look then, we have 5 terminations here, all F connectors, okay? And what we have is, we have the low band here, vertical and horizontal, and we have a high band. So we just correspond the wires to match these here, okay? And what we do is, this particular one here is an 8-way. So we can actually, even though we only feed 4 cables in, we'd actually have an 8-way split of cables running out from here. Okay. Now the other thing here is, if you actually look, there's actually a 5th connection here called terrestrial. So we can actually feed something like a UHF aerial to pick up the new Sairview channels, whatever, in here, and this will also be fed with these cables out to the various different rooms. Now the fantastic thing about using something like the Quattro LNB is the modular nature of it. We can switch this out from an 8-way to a 16-way or a 32-way output, and the actual physical satellite dish outside or the UHF aerial we're using won't change in any way. So it's excellent from that perspective. It minimises the amount of wiring, it minimises the amount of hassle on it. Now there's a certain cost implication here. If you only have 1 satellite receiver or 2 in your house, it's not worthwhile doing this because it's a little more expensive and it's more technically complicated to set up. But if you get into a situation where you're into 5 or 6 boxes, things like this, particularly if it's terrestrial combined, suddenly using a Quattro LNB with a multi-switch is a very, very good technical answer. Now it's relatively, in Ireland the market for these is mainly in apartment blocks, or we'll say with hotels, things like this. But if you went onto the continent, things like this, you'd find these would be very, very popular in domestic locations. So an awful lot of people, just in their own residential houses that had a lot of free-to-air boxes, would be using this simply because it makes the wiring so simple. Run 4 cables in and then run a single cable to each room and add them on as you need afterwards. So that's it anyway, an overview of the Quattro LNB available on tvtrade.ie.